What never fails to make you tear up or cry? My late partner passed away from leukemia at 38 years old. He hid a letter for me in our room in case he didn't make it. It's the most beautiful and eloquent thing I've ever read. He talks about regretting not being able to see my hair turn gray, or seeing me accomplish my dreams. He gives me permission to fall in love again, be messy, and move forward. The level of support is so encouraging. It's also a heartbreaking read and I've only read it 3 times. I will read it again on the 2-year date of his passing at the end of this month. One particular patient I had working in a trauma center. 19-year-old girl I'd never seen before, and didn't know at all. She was ejected from a vehicle and then crushed because her boyfriend was trying to show off. I was training new staff, and they were at the end of their training, so I was only in the room to provide supervision and step in if necessary, and I spent the entire trauma holding her hand, on her request, and trying to comfort her and keep her mind off of the injuries to both of her legs. Her last words were spoken directly to me, "This really hurts. Can I go to sleep?" I cried for days after. I've never had a patient's death hit me as hard before or after. Edit. All of your comments and kind words mean so much. You're all wonderful individuals and you deserve hugs. Apparently reading through this thread. Cripes. Being alone. I live with my autistic son, and when he is with me, and not with his mother, I have literally no time or energy to think. When I am alone, my mind plays every future for him and I can't think a happy end. Someday he will lose me and his mother and will be alone in a daycare for people with special needs. And I read tons of articles and others how this all is for autistic people like him. It breaks my heart every time to think about him as an elderly person who has a broken heart but can't communicate it straight. I hope I will live long enough to outlive him. I am just 20 years older. This thread apparently. But in all honesty, I'm very emotional lately, so it's no surprise. Child abuse statements. Thinking about my dog's last day. She was 17 years old and her organs were shutting down. Before we took her to get put down, she was in the backyard eating her food. She walked slowly to us while wagging her tail and we took her. When we got home to bury her, I looked over at her dog bowl and there was still a bit of food in it. Kills me every time I think of it. The ending monologue of movie The Shawshank Redemption. I find I'm so excited I can barely sit still or hold a thought in my head. I think it's the excitement only a free man can feel, a free man at the start of a long journey whose conclusion is uncertain. I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope. My dad passed very traumatically from a house fire. He kept running back in the house to make sure everyone else was getting out okay, and he was struck and burned by debris. He spent 5 days unconscious in the ICU before his heart failed. He had a small YouTube channel where he would mostly record engines he was working on, and when I miss him a lot, I go to those videos and cry every time. When the musicians in Titanic start playing Nearer to My God the after saying goodbyes and then joining together till the end. What a group of legends. Can't Help Falling in Love, Elvis. Was supposed to be the song my sister and her fiancé danced to at her wedding. Instead it was played walking into the church, at his funeral, after he took his own life. My poor sis was so strong that day, but that song still gets us both. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Thinking about how poorly I treated my dad when he was still alive. He was always trying to find things in common with me to connect with me. When I found out he liked something I also liked, I just changed my mind and found it uncool. I looked down on the TV shows he liked and didn't realize until later that he had an awesome taste for quality campy television like The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. and other classics from that era of 90s syndicated television. If I knew him now, he'd be my best friend. I did try to connect with him in the last few years of his life, but he had dementia by then and couldn't follow things I knew he would have found interesting before. His last words to me were "it hurts" while I held his hand during catheterization on his last trip to the hospital. I was too embarrassed from seeing his penis to offer any true comfort. Thinking of that abandoned little kitten I found. I called him Mortimer. Tried to keep him alive. Bottle feeding him. Keeping him warm, skin to skin. Staying awake through most of the night. Calling in sick day after day to stay with Kitty. Emergency vet scheduling with them saying he probably won't make it. Kitty didn't make it. It's when my oldest cat slowly stalked up to the cat, nudging her nose against Mortimer's head. Mortimer didn't move. Didn't react. I put him in a shoebox with his blanket, so he would not be cold. Buried him and left a little pebble for a tombstone. That was 20 years ago. I'm sorry, Mortimer. I couldn't save you. Edit. Wow. I had absolutely no idea that this would blow up in such a significant way. Thank you, everyone. I am doing my best to reply to each and every individual that commented. There are so many heart-wrenching stories to read. I find solace in knowing that there are so many internet strangers who also do their best to help the most vulnerable creatures we stumble upon in our lives. Thank you all, once again. Be well, be safe. The end of Homeward Bound. Especially when Shadow says, "Peter, you're okay." Like, they went through all of that and almost died multiple times and Shadow was just glad to know Peter was okay. Gets me every time. Schindler's List, I could have got more. My wedding song. My husband died in an accident a little over 3 years ago, only 5 months after we got married. All I need to hear is the first note of the song and the grief hits hard. Strategically placed albums from my youth. If I am half drunk and someone begins to play the album Four Cornered Night by Jets to Brazil, I will become uncharacteristically nostalgic, and then openly sob at the idea of how good I was at being 18 years old, vs how shitty I am at being 38 years old. Getting old is weird. The scene in My Girl when she is at Macaulay Culkin's funeral. Amos Diggory crying "That's my boy." In Harry Potter and Goblet of Fire over his son's dead body. Watching Fox and the Hound, I was watching the part where she releases Todd with my 5-year-old daughter. Her with a catch on her voice asking why. Me explaining. Her in tears saying she'll take him, she'll take care of him. Now I cry. Every damn time. Goodbyes. Doesn't matter what kind. I'll always get teary-eyed. The ending of The Pursuit of Happiness when he finally gets the job. The struggles leading up to that point makes me tear up all the time when they finally give him the position. I literally am physically incapable of reading this poem without shedding a tear. Do not stand at my grave and weep, I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. The end of The Iron Giant. You stay, I go. No following. Land Before Time when his mother is giving him the speech. When he's shouting his mother. Oh man, feels. Zuko and Iroha's reunion in the finale of Atla. The scene in the Les Mis movie where Gavroche, the little boy, walks towards the army singing and is shot in the leg but keeps going, all while another character in the background, I think his brother, is screaming for him to come back. Then Gavroche is shot again, killing him before he can finish his song, and the brother breaks free from the people holding him back and runs to Gavroche. Then he just holds him and just sobs. Also in that same movie, where, after the rebellion is over and the majority of the men are dead, the women in the street cleaning the blood singing the line "Children of the barricade who didn't last the night." Did you see them lying where they died? Someone used to cradle them and kiss them when they cried. It just makes me cry, every time. The scene in Saving Private Ryan when the medic gets shot and dies on the field with the rest of his group desperately trying to save him. Green Mile. Mufasa's death in The Lion King. Also that scene in Interstellar where he sees those videos of his kids. That gets me sobbing like nothing else. Sometimes you just need a good cry. Cats being dropped in the side of the road in a box or left in apartments as people moved out. The episode of Scrubs when Dr. Cox's brother-in-law Ben dies. That is a gut punch. Fathers who tell their children how proud they are of them. Your Lie in April. Dying pets. When Miguel sings Remember Me for Mama Coco. My dog died right before I Am Legend came out, and I still have to hold back tears when watching that movie. Seeing other people crying in emotional pain makes me sob every time. Edit. Wow, thank you for the awards, guess this hit a spot with a lot of people. Had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. I'm a member of a 12-step program and in meetings we give out chips or keychains for different amounts of clean/sober time. After giving out multiple years, 1 year, 6 months, etc., the meeting chair will ask if there's anyone new or coming back, relapsed and is returning to the program, who wants to take a 24-hour chip. When anyone gets up and takes their 24H chip, the room invariably gives them the loudest applause and cheers and welcomes them back. The whole room knows how much courage it takes to come back and how scary it can be to get up and walk to the front of the room for that chip. It's such a beautiful thing to see and it makes me cry every time. Dobby's death and the end of the Iron Giant. My daughter's best friend died in a car crash a couple of years back. She was 18. She'd been coming to our house since she was 4 or 5. She'd become a part of our family. Even when her and my daughter would have the silly arguments kids have when they become teens and a bit more independent, she'd still make herself at home the next time she was round. She had a smile that lit up the room. When I think about the night she died, I cry. When I think back to the heartbroken faces of 8 teenagers that appeared at our house an hour after it happened, I cry. When I think about how her family must feel, I cry. When I think about how her death has impacted my daughter's life, I cry. When I think about how her life could have turned out, I cry. Even writing this, tears run down my face. That scene in the David Attenborough documentary on Netflix, A Life on Our Planet, or something, where the orangutan is sat on the single tree on their own, everyone stop using palm oil please. Doctor Who. The episode with Van Gogh. Ugh. It's not your fault. Good Will Hunting. That's all I wanted to hear as a kid and growing up. Watching it for the first time it felt like the whole scene was written for me down to the photos and the fuck him. Robin Williams is great but Matt Damon's vulnerability was a scene stealer. Edit. Seymour. The ending of The Return of the King. As soon as I hear the Grey Havens music I get hit with a wave of emotion. Whenever my addict daughter gets arrested, 4 times in the last 2 weeks. Whenever I look at a picture of her. Whenever I remember a memory of her when she was little and she was still my angel. Whenever I try to think of something I could do to help her and realize that I've already done everything a parent can do, and it hasn't helped. I cry when it gets cold out, and wonder if she is stuck out the night somewhere, cold and lonely. I cry when I look at her 8-year-old daughter, that my wife and I are raising. I cry a lot lately. Edit. Thank you for the platinum. That's a first. The scene where Riley hugs her parents in Inside Out. At the time the movie came out it hit way too close to home. I just moved away from all my friends that I had and I felt alone for the first time in my life. So I know exactly what she was going through. Also if you're a wrestling fan, the Eddie Guerrero tribute package the WWE made the week he died. The one with Johnny Cash playing. Last one. When the Grinch is crying over his mom dying on the animated special. Seeing this scene as a little kid made me bawl. It hits different too. Especially if you don't have a good relationship with your mom, or if your mom is unfortunately no longer with us. The Grinch, remember your mother. Time Adventure, the song from the finale of Adventure Time. Goodbye Dr. Ten, I don't want to go. The end of Coco. IDC, how many times I watch it, it hits me every time. Wow, my most upvoted comments are about me crying like a little baby, lol, at least I know I'm not alone. Hearing the Living Years, by Mike and the Mechanics. My dad is still alive and I hug him whenever I can. But man, this song hits me in the feels. The scene in Scrubs when it suddenly clicks that Ben died, it's like a sudden slam to the gut, it gets me every time. Also when Laverne died, and the ending of my finale really gets the waterworks going. Watching my brother's muscular dystrophy slowly get worse and knowing he won't live a full life. Animals saving people. Something about watching an unexpected animal saving a human's life just makes me tear up. Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin. When Marshall finds out his dad died in How I Met Your Mother. When my uncle died, I was in middle school. He never married and had no children. He and I cherished every moment we had together. He was so kind, patient, loving, thoughtful, and selfless, truly a great man loved by all in the community. When I was young, I swear he intentionally exchanged bills to make sure his coin jar was filled every time I visited so we could count it out and go buy something at the local junk store, something he always said was worth it because it put a smile on my face. He taught me gardening, would take me fishing, and let me eat all the junk food I wanted. He was raised a farm boy through and through, and I don't think he ever got his high school diploma. His only job I knew of was a Walmart greeter. He never drank, volunteered for his church, ran 4 to 6 miles a day, was very involved in the community, and was always very fit and ate well. Stomach cancer is what took him too soon. He was in his mid-60s and left everything to my brother and me with the caveat that it was used for education. The will said, so you can make something better of yourself than I did. Thinking of that phrase always gets me. I don't think he realized how big those shoes were, and it had nothing to do with education. Something I read on Tumblr a few years ago. It goes something like this: on the day of the 9/11 attack, the schools were called off and teachers were waiting with the middle schoolers to be picked up by their parents to take them home. One student is left out and the teacher asks why her parents weren't there yet, and she says they won't come because they were in the tower too. Makes me tear up every time I think of it. Hachiko. Remembering my son before he was diagnosed as autistic, not being able to talk, but being so happy. There's a memory, and a video, of him dancing along to the ballroom scene in Beauty and the Beast, and every time I think of it I cry. He just held his hands and span in a circle. My lovely little boy. Thinking about my grandma. It's been 6 years since she died and I can't remember her voice anymore. She was my everything. Hope she is in a better place now. Thinking about losing my dog someday. I know it'll happen eventually, but I can't handle the thought of it. My dog has been gone for over 25 years, but when I think of him, I still cry. Sometimes I even sob. Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Is. You bow to no one. And then everyone bows before Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. I cry every damn time. That scene in Fresh Prince where Uncle Phil consoles Will after his dad abandoned him again. The acting is phenomenal and all too relatable. Leaves from the vine. Falling so slow. Like fragile tiny shells. Drifting in the foam. Little soldier boy comes marching home. Brave soldier boy comes marching home. Song by Mako Iwamatsu. It's even more heartbreaking once you realize when Hiro was crying in the show, Mako was crying because he knew he was dying. Dumbo's Mother's Baby Mine song, especially with the animation. I had a personality disordered egg donor instead of a mum, so I tend to get a false nostalgia for really good parent figures, but that clip tears me apart every time. The thought that my cat's previous owner almost overdosed him on heroin to stop his girlfriend leaving him. Background: my wife was a caseworker for homeless and drug addicts in the UK. She had a couple who were both heroin addicts, and they had Yancey, the cat. The girlfriend threatened to leave him. He was big fearsome Lithuanian called Elvis, and he picked up Yancey and held a syringe to him. Wife punched him in the face, grabbed Yancey and brought him home, and we've looked after him since and given him the best life we can. Somebody getting something they deserve, in a good way. I always cry at the end of Undercover Boss when I used to watch it. It's so nice seeing hard workers rewarded. I know I'm a total chump and it's probably fake, but I don't care. The first 10 minutes of Up. The ending to The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Last episode of M*A*S*H. Edit: there are spoilers in this thread. Goo Goo Dolls, Iris. BoJack Horseman, Season 6, Episode 15. The view form halfway down. Edit: thank you for the award. It's my first one ever. Edit 2, wow, and the gold. Thank you, stranger too. Jessie's Story, Toy Story 2. That scene from The Fresh Prince when Will's dad bails on his trip. Why don't he want me, man? Every time. That scene in the Doctor Who episode Vincent and the Doctor. Ugh. The Luckiest, Ben Folds. When I was 15, I told my, then, best friend that I wanted the first dance at my wedding to be to this song, and that I wanted to be dancing with her. She laughed me off. 11 plus years later, we'll be getting married this September, and you can bet your ass we'll be dancing to The Luckiest in front of our wedding guests. We've been engaged for almost 18 months already, and every time this comes up in my Spotify shuffle I just lose it. Marley and Me, I cannot even think of that scene without tearing up. Mufasa. Mr. Rogers. Talking about the kids wanting to see their dad in the movie Onward, LOL. I tried to tell my fiancé about it the other day and my voice cracked talking about it and she couldn't believe it, haha, it just gets me. Titanfall 2, Final Mission. Avatar Season 2 Episode 15, The Tales of Ba Sing Se. The ending of Coco. Doctor Who, David Tennant's last moments as the 10th Doctor. It always makes me cry no matter what. The scene in Monsters Incorporated when Kitty takes Boo back to her room and she's excitedly showing off her toys, no idea she can't see him anymore, then he leaves, she goes to open the closet door and he's gone and they're shredding her door. I sob uncontrollably every single time. I'm 31. The theme to Interstellar as well as Don't Let Me Leave, Merv. It's very useful when needing to cry on command. Edit: noticed autocorrect changed the name. Reading The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. RDR2 ending. Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley. That song cuts through me like a hot knife through butter. The thought of leaving my parrot behind. He's 8 years old. Average life expectancy for his breed is 60 years. He may well outlive me. The thought of me not being there anymore and him looking for me and wondering where I am makes me well up instantly. I well up whenever I've gone away just for one night and my friend house sits. On longer trips I hate the thought of him wondering if I'm coming back. How excited he is to see me when I do come back gets me too. This fear is what keeps me going though. I could never end my life because I could never leave him behind. Right now, not a thing fails to make me cry. 19 weeks pregnant. When I see 9/11 videos or hear the 911 calls and calls to loved ones from when it was happening. Always makes me cry. The end of Lord of the Rings Return of the King gets me every time without fail. Bridge to Terabithia. Thank you for watching the video. Welcome to Reddit Wisdom. Here you will learn the wisdom of the crowd, the wisdom of Reddit. Please consider subscribing for more Reddit wisdom.